Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Five Star Joshi Show here on the YouTube channel, and for the final time here on the Fight Game Media Network. A lot of change is coming for me in terms of my content and very specifically this show. The Five Star Joshi Show has been my thing for a number of years now, and I think dating back to 2021. And as I sit here and I talk to all of you, the many who have continued to listen, whether you are now listening on YouTube or have listened through the Fight Game Media feed or all the way back when we were on Patreon on Fight Game Media, I want to thank you all for joining me on this journey. But I wanted to spend a moment before we get into everything that we often get to here on the Five Star Joshi Show, just to talk about um, the end of the show on the network and thank the network and the many who have helped me along the way, and kind of talk about what's next. Because I think what's next is very important, and maybe that's what you're wondering, in terms of seeing this show come to an end, a staple for me, my one constant really since 2021. It's been over 4 years that this show has been running on a weekly basis. I've missed very few shows. And ultimately, the decision wasn't just a one person decision. I talked through this with a lot of different people, Garrett, especially, who of course runs Fight Game Media. And the decision was that it's time to into a new world. If you've been following me here on YouTube, if you found me here on YouTube, this won't really impact you all too much. But if you have been following me since the start of this show, and maybe this is the one part of my content you check in on a weekly basis, first off, I once again want to say thank you. But my schedule, my life itself, it doesn't work towards the weekly drop on Fridays anymore, the weekly podcast strategy anymore, because what I'm doing now with the YouTube channel is I'm creating as much content as possible, as much instant content as possible. And moving forward, that's kind of going to be the process. Now, I will say this: the Five Star Joshi Show is not going away, nor is the ability to listen to me on podcast feeds. I'll get to that here in a second. But I will be leaving the Fight Game Media Network feed once and for all. And I just want to spend this moment to thank Fight Game Media for giving me a chance. In 2021, I was, still very new to Joshi, but I loved it. It was my favorite part of pro wrestling, and it was also an opportunity to try something new, to get into the podcast content creation game full time, and it really put me on track to be where I am today, to have the confidence and to have the ability to interview the likes of Sareee and Julia and Utami Hayashishita and Tam Nakano and Sareee Amioka, Miku out. I'm just going over the past couple of years, so many. Mio Momona. Like, without this show, that never happens. I never join Fightful to do interviews and do that. I never go here that, like, without this show, without this opportunity from Garrett and company, I'm not doing this. So to close the book on this chapter of my life is it's fascinating. It's fascinating, but I'm forever grateful. I want to thank Garrett for giving me the opportunity. I want to thank him for consistently believing in me and this podcast. I want to thank Parker, who of course was my original co-host. If you've listened way back, you know that we had a great time together. I ran on, kind of solo for a long time, but I always loved those, that first year or so that me and Parker made this happen. And I'm happy I was able to make the 5 Star Joshi Show mine. It's something I'm incredibly proud of. It's something I'll forever be proud of, but it's time for a change. I also want to thank everyone that has been a part of Fight Game Media that has come on here. Shout out to the Speaking with Strong Style guys. Speaking of Strong Style, my apologies. You know, they always involved me and had me on their show. And, I had Steven on this show before. I want to thank them. I want to thank the Power Bombshells and what they do there, and all the great shows and all the great people there. Sorry if I'm not naming name by name, but I just want to thank you all for the continued support. Because again, you know, Fight Game Media covering WWE, AEW, New Japan, boxing, all these different things. So taking the chance on a niche inside of a niche that is Joshi wrestling so long ago with someone like myself who, you know, I think I got better as time went on, but taking a chance on myself, taking a chance on this show, it will forever mean the world to me. So I just want to thank Fight Game Media. I want to thank everyone involved with Fight Game Media. And I want to thank all of you once more for believing in me and making me love doing this show. And, if you were part of the many live reviews and stuff like that, again, thank you so much. Now, in terms of what's next, I put out a post on the YouTube channel, youtube.com/@ScottEWrestling. That is where you're going to continuously find my content covering the world of Joshi. I put a post about, change coming. What do I want to do moving forward? And, you know, I wanted to hear from subscribers of the channel. I wanted to hear from people who listen to me. What direction makes the most sense, because I was always going to make a decision that worked best for me, but I also was always going to make a decision that was best for listeners as well. And after talking to some of you, after talking to friends and so many different things, this was where we're going. And if you listen to me on a podcast platform, whether it be Apple or Spotify, I'm going to make a decision in the coming weeks to get myself still on there in its own feed. It's going to be under Scott E Wrestling. I want to be under the 5 Star Joshi Show, though there will be some theme shows with that name. But it's going to be under Scott E Wrestling. We're going to put that on podcast platforms, Spotify, Apple, maybe some more. And you'll be able to listen to certain videos that are posted on the YouTube. But that brings me to the main point. Everything I do moving forward will be with the focus of this YouTube channel. Stardom to the World, which we are reviewing today, that will have already had a review up. I'm not going to wait until a certain time, the podcast or such. That will already have a review up. And that, some of these things will still be under the 5 Star Joshi Show banner. I talked to other people, they said the weekly roundup is always helpful. I'm coming up with ideas in terms of weekly content to potentially do and keep involved, because what I remain in wanting to do, I'm not just going to cover Stardom. I'm not just going to cover Marigold. I want to cover Sendai Girls. I want to cover Marvels. I want to cover these indies and these smaller promotions and these matches that I've always had the opportunity to discuss on this show in a unique way on the channel. For me, it's about the love of Joshi. It's about spreading Joshi. And it's always been about that. So we're going to keep that true. It might ultimately end up in more content overall, just not in the one-stop shop podcast every single Friday like it's been for the past many years. And I hope if you listen to me, whether it be on podcast, whether it be on YouTube, you stick with me. You stick with me because your kind words, your belief in me and the content and what I say, it means a lot. It really does. And if you listen to me on podcasts, I'm going to make sure at the very least that my reviews and my previews for these big shows, whether it be Stardom's pay-per-views or a Marigold KORAKUEN or Stardom KORAKUEN, those are gonna be on there. Um, but you will always be able to find the content first on YouTube. A lot of it's going to be trial and error, of course, as well. I have a lot of ideas for historic content coming up now that the Dreamstar Grand Prix ends this Sunday. We're going to be talking so much about AJW days. We're going to go back into the old days of Stardom once again, a project that I loved doing with Trent Brewer once upon a time. We're going to do things like that. Because at the end of the day, I want to not only talk about modern and everything going on, and we're going to keep at that. That's still going to be my place here. But we're going to do so much more. We're going to keep putting out content. So if you are a Fight Game Media Network listener, and this is how you've always listened to the show, give me a couple weeks. I'm going to get the feed up. We're going to have reviews. We're going to have stuff like that. I have weekly ideas. I have monthly ideas. I have so much possibilities. But also, if you're just waiting for immediate content, go to youtube.com/@ScottEWrestling. Subscribe to the channel. That's where we are. That's the new direction. Life changes for the better, right? So I have to make changes here, but changes that I think are going to be to the benefit of not only myself, but to the many who listen. Um, we're going to do our best. I'm excited for the future. I'm excited for what's next. To the many who continue to believe in me, again, thank you so much. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about this here for the first 10 minutes of this show. And I'm excited for what's next. But hey, the Five Star Joshi Show rolls on here one more time on the Fight Game Media Network. And we're going to do it big. We're going to do it big time. We got Stardom to the World to review. We got Stardom KORAKUEN to review. We're going to give you kind of a preview of Wrestle Princess as well. That's next weekend. But I want to give you the preview here now. I just kind of want to talk about the three big promotions. Then we'll end the show previewing the Dream Star Grand Prix. But if you are a supporter, you worry. I am going to do everything in my power to continue the best possibilities. But this YouTube channel, we are going all in. More live shows, more content, historic, future, modern predictions, awards, such as that. We're going all in. So just stick with me. Give it a little time. Takes a little time to make adjustments and get things up, but we're going to get there. So thank you, everyone. And let's get on with the show. So, like I said, Stardom had Stardom to the World this weekend. Stardom to the World was a big time pay per view. Of course, the undercard was what it was, but big time matches up and down the card that I'm super excited to talk about. I think the beauty for me of kind of this show and what Stardom's been all about is that the big matches deliver. Now, you knew my feelings going into it, right? I was hesitant on the idea of what a Bea Priestley championship match will look like, but I'm here to give her applause. I'm here to give her praise. I'm also going to talk a little bit about the undercard here along the way as well, because that's what we do. So I'll give you the results, any minor thoughts, and then we'll get to that big four match review. But the opening of the show was Rina defeating Emma Mishima in 8 minutes and 38 seconds. This match served as a rematch, of course, to the match where Rina had gotten injured and lost to Emma, so a running back. I thought this was a really strong opener, kind of what the future Stardom Championship once upon a time was for Stardom, right? That hot opener back and forth between two young stars, and Rina's so good that she can carry someone like an Emma to a really strong match. There's going to be a lot of Rina praise on here. That's the only way we do it. But overall, like, I thought this was exactly the introduction to the pay-per-view I wanted, and it's why I wish more of these undercards had matches like this, opportunities for these wrestlers to shine. Emma Mishima is someone who, with the tournament, I kind of didn't see much of, obviously, but she is an exciting prospect, one that I think everyone should keep an eye on. We then had Hanako and Waka Tsukiyama defeat Aya Sakura and Kikyo Furusawa. Dark Silhouette teamed with Mei Sarah to defeat Sayaka Kara and Yuna Mizumori. So ahead of the high speed championship match, we saw Carrara get, or not Carrara, Yuna Mizumori lose, and Mei Sarah go in with the upper hand, obviously. So that's a big deal. We then have Zusa Inaba, Konami, Momo Watanabe defeat Bozilla, Tsukiyoki, and Rina Yamashita for an undercard match, for a match just kind of tossed on the show. I thought this was pretty exciting as well, pretty entertaining. We are in an interesting spot, I think, with Mi Vida Loca, right? We're still trying to figure out, or at least I am, maybe not everyone, but I'm still trying to figure out, like, what is the purpose of this faction? They don't feel like a group. I don't see a real connection between Suzu and Bozilla yet, and maybe we're on the road to those two kind of being the maybe the next Goddesses of Stardom champions. Tag League's right around the corner. Perhaps that is the duo you put together. Um, but it still just doesn't feel like a faction to me. It just feels very thrown together. But they worked really well here as a trio, and that's kind of all I'm asking for. More Yamashita around, more Aoki around will help let this actually marinate and become more of a faction. But this match was a lot of fun. You then had Hina, Kyoko Kotatsu, Rana Yagami, and Saki Kashima defeat Hanan, Momokogo, Saida, and Yuri Hime. This served as another preview match between Hina and Yuri Hime ahead of their future Stardom Championship match on the KORAKUEN. You then had Ami Sareee and Lady C defeat Natsuko and Sariano, Hazuki and Koguma, and Azumi versus Miyu Amasaki. I kind of figured this would, be a leg up for the Ami Sareee and Lady C's of the world, to eventually lay down a challenge to BMI 2000 for the tag belts, maybe right before Tag League begins. I think that's a real possibility, especially with the KORAKUEN coming at the end of the month. I could see maybe them toss that type of match on there, get them one defense before the Tag League kicks off. But let's get to the big four matches here now. I already talked about that one. My apologies. But we have Natsuko Tora versus Mayumi Ozaki. I'll be honest. It was very limited amount of excitement from me here. Not because I didn't think they could have a good match. I thought maybe if we all worked together, this could be quite exciting. Now, the problems, or the problem was that this wasn't a match designed to be the best of what an Ozaki match can be. And I'm not a big Mayumi Ozaki fan in her current version necessarily. But the violence, kind of the idea of using weapons and going crazy and going everywhere around the arena, that can be exciting, right? If you've ever watched an Oz Academy, you know how this goes. But where that lacked, I thought, was just the confusion aspect that I feared when this match was announced. The idea of heel, Natsuko Tora, maybe the one true heel left in hate, against Mayumi Ozaki, who is not going to be cheered by a Stardom crowd. There was just no way. And she's pretty much a heel as is. And now this was all to set up an upcoming match at Oz Academy's big show. So, sure, whatever. But that doesn't defeat the purpose here that this was a confusing matchup to me, and a matchup that was also just confusing to the audience. There are points in this match where Mayumi Ozaki is fighting off all of hate all by herself. I've watched wrestlers in their prime not be able to do that, but Mayumi Ozaki's 56 years old, and she's fighting off the likes of Ruaka and Rina, and it's like, really? I don't know about that. I wasn't a big fan of this match. I was genuinely shocked to even see Tora get the win, and it was like kind of a win, not really. It took a lot of cheating to get there. I don't know. Now, I will say the Oz Academy match that is coming up will be exciting, will be fun because it will be uh Hate versus Sekigun. But yeah, this just didn't do it for me. And I knew that going in. I knew that going in. But it just didn't do much for me. However, the last three matches really picked up the pace. That's why you watch Stardom to the World at the end of the day. And that starts with the IWGP Women's Championship match. I I don't know what more I can say about Sareee that I haven't already, but I'm gonna try to find some new things to say nonetheless after this match. And the same goes for Suzuki. This has been someone a favorite of this show for years and years and years, and is going to remain a favorite of this show, or this channel, whatever you may say, for years to come. Because there's very few wrestlers that I think can bring the entire package of what Sareee brings to the table in terms of intensity, physicality, and just overall quality and belief in herself as a wrestler. You know, it's just something that makes her the best in the world, in my opinion, if not one of the best in the world, whoever you ask. Suzuki checks all those boxes. Suzuki is crazy enough to take on anyone and give them an incredible match, but not only incredible match, but make it just as much her match as it is their match. You know, I think that's always an interesting topic point when you watch big matches like this. What is going to be the best path for, someone like a Suzu who is again trying to build herself up as a Mi Vida Loca uh, uh leader? Like, what is the best path? Is it big win, big win, big win, then a big loss? Is it a 5-star run that had her have a pretty good run before falling short? Or is it just giving her a title? This match told me that it can, for her, be another title loss, but we can't have another one. Suzuki has lost a lot of big championship matches. This is her second big title loss this year. She had originally lost the World of Stardom Championship match. Now she loses that, which is fine. But there needs to be a plan here coming around the horn. There needs to be a destination for Suzuki moving forward because she's too freaking good not to have one. This match proved that. Sareee and Suzuki tore it down. This match unsurprisingly was terrific. This match was physical. This match was nasty. This match was everything that makes these two wrestlers great, highlighted in every which way. The German suplexes from the top rope on each other were nasty. Those are not easy bumps. The back and forth, and let me just say this, and I said this on Twitter, and I'll say it again. There is something to be said about the energy of the crowd when Sareee wrestles a match in Stardom. Listen, we can talk about the boos and the chants and those who aren't loving Sareee running through and those who do. Listen, I do. I love that Sareee is doing what she's doing. But the energy and the loudness of these crowds is second to none in these matches. The only other and especially when you are at the Yokohama Budokan, right? There are times when Stardom is at a bigger building where the sound doesn't always come through as loud as you'd hope or something of the sorts. Boy, oh boy, were they loud here. There were chants of Suzu, there were chants for Sareee, back and forth, and you just continuously see the changing of the guard in terms of fan reactions to the Sun God in a Stardom ring. And don't you worry, I saw Saya Kamitani tease the match that inevitably needs to happen between these two. I sure did. But this match was great. Sareee getting the win was not a surprise, but it's one of my favorites of the year. One of my favorite matches in Suzu's Stardom run. One of my favorite matches in Saree's Stardom run. Between this match, the Shuri match, the Mayu match from last year, that might be her top 3 in a Stardom ring thus far. Just an absolute fantastic encounter between two fantastic wrestlers. It's what they do. You could see them have an appreciation for one another when the match was over, which is always lovely to see, especially after you go through a war like that. And then I think it's just worth mentioning. We'll see what it leads to. But Sareee didn't get a new challenger after the match. However, she did say this is a title that is ready to be defended against anyone from around the world. It is a title she wants to continuously make more attractive, continuously make the top belt in Stardom. I think that all leads us to an eventual showdown between Sareee and Saya Kamitani, but we still have steps to take to get there. Who does that mean? Who does she face? She said many people through the years to myself and others. Um, could that mean someone in Japan that's not in a Stardom ring? Could that mean she faces a longtime rival like a Chihiro Hashimoto? Probably not her, but you get my point. Could it mean she finally gets an international opponent that she's been wanting to face for since returning? You look at someone like an Athena, that is someone she's named to me as a possibility, a match that she'd love to have. I think they once upon a time had a match in NXT. It would be very different now. But these opportunities are here for a reason. There's possibilities to see what Sareee ultimately can do and continue to raise up this championship and paint it in her vision. But that's the excitement, right? That's what we love to see here, and I'm excited to see what's next for Sareee as champion. But like I said, this match was fantastic. A must watch. And speaking of must watch, Wonder of Stardom Championship. I think there is a clear discussion, in my opinion, of who the top 3 wrestlers in Stardom are this year. And in no particular order, it is Saya Kamitani, it is Rina, and it is none other than your Wonder of Stardom champion, Starlight Kid. She's just incredible, man. Like, I think in terms of a match to match basis, it's hard to say. There is an argument Starlight Kids had a better championship reign than Saya Kamitani, just from the match by match point. Not saying in terms of importance. Listen, I recognize I'm the one that says on every single show I do that Saya Kamitani should not lose the World of Stardom Championship anytime soon. But I think Starlight Kid's packing in the defenses a bit more, packing in the big matches a bit more because her reign's not going to go as long. But my God, every performance she has, she had that little blip in the middle where she was kind of banged up and had to take time off. But she's somehow come out of the 5-star looking fresh, looking great, and standing across the ring from someone like a Tomoka Inaba. They put on a clinic. This match was again terrific. Another Wonder Stardom Championship top tier match. My match of the year list, folks, if you're wondering, Starlight Kid is third. Okay, she's only behind Mayu, Iwatani, and Sareee. Which, hey, you know what? You can call me biased all you want. I'm not going to hide from it. But like that is the list. Saya Kamitani right behind her. But that is the list. Starlight Kid is having that good of a year. And when she continuously has matches like this one, she is in the conversation of best champion right now in wrestling. She's in the conversation of best wrestler in the world right now because of what she's doing. This is the potential that everyone always saw and believed in when it came to SLK. And when you have her in the ring with someone like a Tomoka Inaba, who is so fundamentally different from her in the way they work each other, but also kind of the same, it makes for an ideal matchup. The way they attack each other's legs, Inaba works on the ankle lock, Starlight Kid works with the leg killer. And the way that, and this is something that I love that Inaba does, and I love that Miku does. These two, who I'm going to be talking a lot about in the next couple of weeks, Inaba here, Miku. If you've been listening to the Dream Star reviews, I've been praising her a lot, but I'll be praising her, I'm sure, this weekend as well. But they use their kicks to decimate body parts. They use their kicks to get them out of pretty much anything. oh, fake to Starlight Kid's abdomen or head or something, kicks her in the leg and absolutely crushes her and sends her down. The same goes for Miku on the way she uses hers, kicking people in the shin and things like that. When you have such elite strikes, when you have such elite kicks like a Tomoka Inaba has, you got to use them to your advantage. And there was a time there where Inaba, kind of tried to figure out the submission based aspect of her work and didn't rely on the kicks nearly as much. I'm happy she's been able to combine them together to just be this awesome wrestler. This match, like her, was awesome. Starlight Kid was able to make Tomoka tap out. A great struggle back and forth, and just overall an awesome match. The Wonder Storm Championship, this has been a reign. Like I said, it's the highest rated match on Cage Match from the show. I have the Suzu saw rematch just the edge higher, but you look at Starlight Kid's run, right? She beats Natsupoi in that match. Her defense against Rina is still probably my match of the year. Then she defends against Konami in a match that I think I liked a little bit more than others. She defends against Azumi. Now, I think that was a letdown, but still a fine, solid match. It wasn't bad by any stretch. Then she lifts up Hanako to a match I never thought Hanako could have, quite frankly. She has an incredible match with Sareee, and now the one with Tomoka Inaba. It's been a fantastic run for Starlight Kid, who continues to move forward as champion. It's been a fantastic run for her, who now sets up who's next, what makes the most sense for Starlight Kid. You look at what Starlight Kid's wins and losses were in the tournament. I think those are always important, right? She got her win back against Tomoka Inaba. Her other losses, time limit draw with Azumi, defeated by Natsupoi, and of course, the time limit draw with Rina. There's a good chance she doesn't run back two of those. But it's the match with Rina that I will continue to say on this show, on this channel, that she needs to run back at Stardom Dream Queen, and with Rina beating her for the belt. You can pack another few defenses in there until then. Whoever you want to pick from, there's plenty of wrestlers to pick from. But the end goal needs to be that. You can do a May match, you could do a Suzuki match. Suzuki brought that up once randomly, and then we kind of moved on. If you want to, you can ascend an Azusa Inaba into that, even if you want to get crazy. Like, there's multiple directions to go here. There's multiple possibilities to go here if you want to give her one or two more defenses before Queendom, but it needs to all come down to Rina in the end. A fantastic match, a must see again. And that brings us to our main event. Saya Kamitani defending the World of Stardom Championship against Priestley. The World of Stardom Championship has been around the waist of Saya Kamitani for 256 days as of this recording. Hell of a run. Obviously, the run includes the Suzuki defense, the Tam Nakano career versus career match, the Carrara match, the Natsupoi match, and now this B match. It's funny not being able to include that the Tam match, the loser leaves match, because that one was phenomenal as well. And that would probably comfortably give Kamitani's reign the edge over SLK for me, if it did count. But hey, that's what debate's for. But now you see Priestley step up. Priestley, a former World of Stardom champion. If you listen to my reviews of the 5-Star Grand Prix, it was a bumpy road for her. She was finding her legs, right? Fresh out of the WWE, finding herself along the way. And, she's a different wrestler now than she was, 5 years ago or 4 years ago when she left. Just a different wrestler now. But I said to myself, if there's going to be a match where B rises to the occasion, it's going to be here against Saya Kamitani, because Saya Kamitani brings the best out of wrestlers. And I'll say this is definitely the best I've seen out of B since she's returned to Japan, since she's returned to Stardom. I thought the match itself was quite good, quite enjoyable. Now, it didn't have the drama. They did actually, I take that back. They did build up to the Queen's Landing, the Cyclone Suplex, as we do, right? They built up to that moment because I think it's a smart moment to build up to. And it got a great near fall. The crowd roared for that. And that's really all you need to do. But B, clunky here or there, some spots not perfect, but overall a good performance out of B in a world title match that you hoped for a good performance out of. But there were times in this match I just said to myself, "My God, Saya Kamitani's so freaking good," and I've long been a Saya Kamitani fan. I just want to say that because I don't know if really anyone cares anymore, but I did doubt the heel return once upon a time a year ago, and boy oh boy, she shut me up 2 ways, 3 ways, 4 ways, 5 ways. Every single match she has, she shuts me up now. Um, but I love Saya Kamitani when she was the Wonder Stardom champion. Like that, this has always been someone who I believe is one of the best wrestlers on the planet. And this was another case of being one of the best wrestlers on the planet. And there's a reason that World of Stardom Championship is around her waist and should not be going anywhere else anytime soon. She won with the Star Crusher, as you would expect. And that led us to the next one, the next match, the match that I was really hoping for, the next championship match. And that, of course, will be against Azumi. Stardom to the World served as the next step in Saya Kamitani's reign, but this is the ultimate. Azumi and Saya Kamitani tore it down at Korakuen Hall. They had arguably my favorite match in the 5-star Grand Prix. And that was the match that Azumi pinned the World of Stardom champion Saya Kamitani and eliminated her from the tournament. So, fast forward to this match, to this idea, right? Face to face. Azumi going to challenge for the World of Stardom Championship for the first time in her career. The same year she challenged for the Wonder of Stardom Championship for the first time in her career. But she doubled down. She said, I will put my New Japan Strong Women's Championship on the line as well. And the match has been made for September 27th at Korakuen Hall. Saturday, gonna be a hoot. It will be Saya Kamitani versus Azumi for the World of Stardom Championship and the New Japan Strong Women's Championship. That's exciting, man. That is exciting. That is a match that I saw. I just saw the image because I had to watch the show late. I just saw the image online. I said, oh, all right. But that puts us on the track that I have long believed a possibility. Saya Kamitani will be winning that New Japan Strong Women's Championship. And then she will probably win the IWGP Women's Championship. And for however long, 3 titles will be held by Saya Kamitani. And that'll eventually bring us to the unification of all 3 into some form. Whatever belt they pick to continue with, I think it's coming, and I think this is just the start of that. It makes sense to get rid of the New Japan Strong Women's title. It's not a belt that needs to live on, I think, anymore. And it just adds a little extra oomph to a World of Stardom Championship match that I was saying last week when talking about why B Priestley winning would be ridiculous, that needed to happen. We are back on the track of telling, and I think this is kind of where I say the Starlight Kid thing may have had the edge in the title defense. And I think that's going to no longer even be a question soon enough. But the reason I said B winning was ridiculous was there's a story once again, finally, in front of Saya Kamitani. After Tam retired, there wasn't one. And she kind of was just waiting around. Now there is one. And it's going back to her past. It's going back to the Queen's Quest days. Her and Azumi going 1-on-1. And then, of course, Momo Watanabe hangs over us all. She is sitting there. We are waiting what that looks like, what that comes to be. And I think that is always the fascinating aspect here. But I'm excited. I can't wait for this match. Match of the year potential, I'd argue. I look forward to it on the 27th. And that is your Stardom to the World review. Let's head to the KORAKUEN Hall show. We're going to just talk the big matches here from the KORAKUEN. They have 5 important matches, I'd argue, kind of. So, whatever. This show was fine. That's kind of my takeaway on this KORAKUEN. I think I understand what they're doing now, right? With the put, you don't have to put every single match on one show, right? That makes sense. These matches that, would once be on the pay-per-views are now split off on the KORAKUEN instantly after. And I understand that. But I think this show was missing the major draw for me outside of, the artist match was interesting because it was a chance for Rina to win another title for me. But or for her collection. That's just kind of how I felt though. Now, I thought the show ultimately was a fine watch, a fine weekly KORAKUEN Stardom Nighter in KORAKUEN for September. Let's go over some of the results before we get to the main matches. Hanako Ryan Wakatsugawa defeated Aya Sakura, Sayaka Kara, and Kikyo Furusawa. Yadami Sareee, Kyoko Kotatsu, Lady C, and Saki Kashima go to a double countout with Bozilla, Tsukiyoki, Rina Yamashita, and Suzuki when Bozilla and Kashima were kept out of the ring. Kashima did have this hilarious dream match shirt for her and Bozilla, which did pop me, admittedly. I will not lie. That was funny. You then had Natsupoi, Sariano versus Rana Yagami and Tomoka Inaba. This was one of the better matches on the show, quite frankly. I probably had this, honestly, might have been my second favorite match on the show. Either this or the high speed title match. But it was a fun back and forth. I think seeing Natsu and Sayori is always a good time. So I have no complaints there. But when we get to the Future of Stardom Championship match, Hina defending the belt against Yuri Hime. Yuri Hime decked out in the Mina Shirakawa style gear, which is always cool. But yeah, it was fine. I think Yuri Hime still has ways to go. She is still very new to professional wrestling. She's still figuring out her moveset and things like that. But for what it was, I think Hina brought the most out of her that she could, I will also say, I think it's funny, Yuri Hime joining the Stars group and now wearing the Mina gear. It's just like, what a funny 1-2 punch, but whatever. Yeah, overall the match is fine. Hina gets the win. After the match was, kind of maybe the end point of Hina's reign, as Hanako stepped up to Hina, laying down the challenge. These two will finally face off for the Future of Stardom Championship, a match that is yet to happen. Hina successfully defended this title 7 times thus far, and something tells me that this very well may be the end. Boy, oh boy, have I enjoyed the Hina reign for what it was, but that is what it is. We then had a tag team match before the final title match. It was B. Priestley, Hanan, Momokogo, and Saida defeating Azusa Naba, Mo Watanabe, and Natsuko Tora. So fine tag here. I think they won. I'm going off cage match. I watched this match. I just barely remember it. I won't lie to you. But we then get to the female Japan Women's Championship match where Koguma defeated Dark Silhouette to win the championship. But it was due to referee stoppage as Dark Silhouette injured her shoulder about 4 minutes into the match, and it called to a shocking stop. No one really knew what was going on at the time because they were looking at Koguma, who's getting to the top rope. The bell rang and it was over. An absolute bummer. I think for Koguma, and the same goes for Hazuki, you get excited when they have matches of importance. You get excited when they get to do something. So for Koguma, kind of seeing this match not really get to be the full match that she probably had hoped for was a bummer. And it's obviously just a bummer for Dark Silhouette as a whole. You know, the injury stinks. The injury in Japan stinks, obviously, as well, you know. So yeah, that just kind of was the title change. But after the match, it was agreed upon Hazuki and Koguma will face off for the CML Japan Championship at a later date. So FWC collides. I still think we're on our way to FWC, you know, continuing to loosely leave this promotion. Um, they are teaming up to face Bubba Bubba Momo Banana at the Sendai Girls Big Show, which should be like one of the best matches of the year type level. I freaking can't wait. But yeah, this is a cool matchup. I'm excited to see these two face off. Perhaps it's kind of the continuation of maybe the beginning of the end for them in Stardom. I don't know. We'll have to keep waiting and seeing. But Tag League's right around the corner. You'd hope that they were in that at least together, right? I don't know. We'll see. You then have the high speed championship match. Finally, after months and months and months and months and months of teasing it, we had May Sarah defending against Yuna Mizumori. I will say this, and I've said it many times now. I don't like the new rules. I don't like them. So I liked this match because the new rules didn't come into factor. But there is the problem of like it's in the back of your mind the whole time. I don't know if anyone else has this problem, but like watching this match, I'm just like, oh well, we're gonna get a fall here, or then we're gonna get a fall here, and then we have to do another fall. And it's like, I don't know. I don't like the I just don't like the falls aspect that are in play when they're wrestling. But for what it was a fun 10 minutes sprint between the two, as you'd expect. And ultimately, it came to a time limit draw, which results in Maysara keeping this belt for some godforsaken reason. I'm so ready for Maysara to lose this belt and move on to bigger and better things. She's ready. Stardom's ready. Yuna is ready to take this title. That has been the story. I don't know why it needs to be prolonged. But after the match, they agreed to a 15-minute one fall match. And then Waka came out and said, never mind. I don't really know what's happening. I'm not going to lie to you. Waka tried to ruin it, though. She made me upset because I got excited that we would just get the normal high speed title match. So we'll see what ends up being announced. But May Sarah, still your high speed champion. I don't like not enjoying saying that because I like May Sarah being champion, but you get the point. And then your main event, the Artist of Stardom Championship match. Of course, this was a match that got postponed after the Rina injury 2 months ago. Now it's happening. You have Azumi, Miyu Amasaki, and Starlight Kid, your champions, go against Rina, Konami, and Fukigen Death, representing, you know, a little Tokyo Cyber Squad Forever type feel, which is a really cool aspect. And you got new champions in what was quite easily, I thought, the best match of the night. I don't think anything really came close to this. As Konami made SLK go to sleep, or did she pin her? Either way, Starlight Kid was the one that took the fall, and I was very confused why we did that. I don't know why Konami. I don't think Konami's getting a rematch in this title reign, but that was one thing that jumped out to me. Rina did hit the gory bomb before it though as well, so it was plated to the fact of those two, which I think is very important. Um, but yeah, a really, really strong trios match. Fugian Death, you know, kind of brought up the Kaori Oniyama a little bit, kind of, you know, did the freaking chaos theory suplex, which was a crazy pop. That was followed by Arena Jackknife for a great near fall. That was awesome. She even hit a Savate kick, which was pretty beast. It was like Kaori just remembering, oh yeah, by the way, I can wrestle. Um, Konami in the finishing stretch with Starlight Kid was really good. But yeah, ultimately it was the title win for Hate, which ultimately leaves Hate with all the gold. You have Rina, Konami, Ifuki, and Death, all with the artist belts. By the way, Rina's holding the same belt that Hana held, and they did the Konami and Rina did Hana and Konami's secret handshake thing that made me very emotional. So they have those three belts. Then you have BMI 2000 holding the Goddesses of Stardom belts. Then you have Saya Kamitani holding the World of Stardom Championship, Azusa Inaba holding the JTO Championship. Then, of course, you have Momo Watanabe without a belt, but the reigning 5-star Grand Prix winner. So, Hate has taken over once again in the World Wonder Ring, which makes me ask myself, what is next? Where are we going? Where is the story? That I don't know. I think I do know. I think it leads to Momo leaving, much like it did earlier this year with Suzu not having a belt. But we'll see. We will see. But that is it from the World Wonder Ring this week. Actually, no, it's not. The new project release was announced. Starlight Kid's having a 10-year anniversary show at Shinjuku Face. Should be awesome. It's her, El Desperado, and Dragon Kid teaming up in the main event. We'll see what the rest of the show looks like. But that was a big announcement, so nothing scary. Good for Starlight Kid as she celebrates 10 years in the business. Now, that's it for the World Wonder Ring. We're about already an hour in here, so let's just go over the TJPW Wrestle Princess card. Then I will give you a big time preview for the Dream Star Grand Prix final this Sunday, and we will get on out of here for the final time here on the Fight Game Media Network. But of course, if you're on the YouTube channel, stick around, join in. We have a lot of fun coming your way. So let's talk about Wrestle Princess now, shall we? Wrestle Princess, this show kind of snuck up on me, but it's here. We've arrived. There will be a DDT Iron Man Championship match on this show, Battle Royal type match. So that's cool. Priscilla Kelly returns to TJPW to face Rika Tatsumi. You have Aja Kong versus Himawari. You'll have Toga and Haru Kazushiro teaming up to face on Yuki Arai and her mentor Hiroyo Matsumoto. So that's pretty cool to see Hiroyo Matsumoto dip her foot into TJPW. You have Yuki Aino and Ryo Mizunami teaming up. They'll face Miyu Yamashita and Kaya Toribami. This is a weird one. Like, I'm kind of bummed that Yamashita is just in a random tag team match, but okay. You'll then have the International Princess Championship decision match as Moka Miyamoto was had to relinquish the championship. It'll be Arisu Endo, your finalist from the Tokyo Princess Cup, taking on Jada Stone in a singles match. It's got to be Arisu Endo, right? Jada Stone's really good, and I think they're going to have a really good match, but it's got to be Arisu Endo. It's got to be. You also have Princess Tag Team Championship match as Shoko Nakajima and Hyper Masao defending against Wakana Uehara and Yuki Kamifuku. And then, of course, your main event after winning the Princess Cup. It will be the rematch from earlier this year on January the 4th as Mizuki puts the Princess of Princess Championship on the line against Miyu Watanabe, your Tokyo Princess Cup winner. That should be a great one. That should be a special one. Could be one of the best matches of the entire year. But this is the card that comes up in 2 weekends. So I just wanted to go over it quickly here on the show as we kind of course, put the bow on our time with Fight Game Media. But let me preview the upcoming weekend for Marigold's Dream Star final. Give you my final pick, my final prediction for the final, and who I think walks away with the dub. So before that, I ask you, go check out day 10 and day 11 of the Dreamstar Grand Prix review series. The daily review series has been a blast. We are almost done. Once the tournament is over, the open for more content overall is back. We will have more creative videos, less just show review, which I have enjoyed doing, but I'm excited to get back to what we've been doing. for quite some time. But go check out day 10 and day 11. Now, let's get to the breakdown, the preview, as Marigold heads to KORAKUEN Hall for the Dream Star Grand Prix final. Couldn't pick a better building for that now, could I? So, of course, in your undercard, we'll go through the Dream League first. The Dream League matches. So in your undercard, you will have Maria versus Chiaki, but then you'll have Sareee Yamaoka versus Rhea Seto. I think this is an exciting matchup between two young Marigold stars. Rhea Seto had the standout match with Victoria Yuzuki just a week ago. Then there's Sareee Yamaoka. I have said this so many times, and I gotta say it again here as we close this chapter. Sareee Yamaoka is incredible. Sareee Yamaoka is the rookie of the year as far as I'm concerned. And I hope she finishes her tournament strong. She has a chance to get to Get to 8 points in her run. Yeah, so 8 points will be strong. There's a chance she's, at the end of the day, 1 or 2 points behind of the finalist. I wish she was in contention going into the final night, but that's neither here nor there. Rhea Seto, on the other hand, looking for her second win. She, of course, went to a draw with Victoria Yuzuki, who is a potential finalist. So obviously a big accomplishment for her. And of course, she defeated Chiaki. So big moment for both of them. Should be an exciting undercard match, but no stakes here between these two. Where the stakes do come in, however, is this match: Utami Hayashishita versus Koki Amare. Utami can make it to her second straight final. A win and a Yuzuki loss gets her in. A draw and a Yuzuki loss. Nope, that's not true. A draw doesn't do good for her, because a Yuzuki draw or a Mayu win, that takes her out. She's got to win this match against Koki Amare. She's got to. That's her only way in. And I think that creates an interesting aspect here. If she goes to a draw and Mayu wins, then it creates a mess. So I think they'll have to have a playoff match, actually. So I guess she can get in that way. But this is a big opportunity for Koki Amare. They have put her in this role to have a massive, massive moment, to have a massive, massive opportunity. I think for a lot of this tournament, there's been a lot of conversation about Koki Amare and where she's at and where she's going to be. I think she can stop a lot of people with a great performance here in a big time, high stakes match against someone like Utami Hayashishita. In a match that she very well could win. Because I don't think Utami is going to the final. So we're going to have to stop her one way or the other. And, a win is a must for her. A draw is possible. But no matter what, it's going to be Koki Amare having to prove herself against the reigning Dream Star winner, the the Marigold World Champion. That is as big as it gets for her. I'm open for her. She has a good showing because I think she's stopping Utami, and that leads us to the ultimate decider: Mayu Iwatani versus Victoria Yuzuki. Victoria Yuzuki has been the MVP of this tournament to this point. She has been sensational. She has told you, she has shown the world she is ready for that next step. So, does she take that next step? She's already beaten the Marigold World Champion in this tournament. She's already on the brink of making it to the tournament. But can she also beat Mayu Iwatani? That's the question here. And based on how the math lines up, with Mayu being at 8 points and Yuzuki being at 9 and Utami being at 9, there is a real possibility and a real opportunity to send these two to a 15-minute time limit draw to decide who advances and who stays. I think that's where we're going, which is fascinating. It would be a big step for Yuzuki. It would be a big trust for Yuzuki. In this one tournament, Mayu would have put over Sareee Yamaoka and went to a draw with Victoria Yuzuki. And it's all the more interesting because of the story of Mayu versus her students. Mentor versus students. Tam Nakano never beat Mayu Utani. Starlight Kid never beat Mayu Utani. I don't see giving away that win. I don't see giving away that win to Yuzuki just yet. But I do see giving the draw. Getting them to a draw, proving Yuzuki's on that level, and having Yuzuki advance to the final. I don't see a world where Mayu advances only because I don't think you want to give away Mayu versus Miku for free in the final. That is a match that deserves build. That is a major, major match. I think that's the biggest match Marigold has. I'm not giving that away, and I'm definitely not having Miku miss the tournament final. So I'm picking Yuzuki. I'm picking Yuzuki to advance here in a match that I think is going to be absolutely fantastic. Then we go to the Star League. You will have in the Star League some underlying matches. Kazuna Tanaka and Chikagoto will go one-on-one. Then you'll have the face-off between Darkness Revolution, Nagisa Nozaki, and Misa Matsui. Nozaki's coming off her strongest match of the tournament, I think, against Miku Aono. Misa Matsui, on the other hand, I'm looking for a strong performance here. Maybe go in more on your underdog ability. Maybe believe in that ability a bit more. This should be a fun one. Not going to be, again, one that's going to get a ton of time because we're putting a lot of focus on those other matches, but it should be a fun one nonetheless that I am looking forward to. You then have Mirai versus Chan Yoda. On the surface, once upon a time, this felt like a massive, massive match with a decider for Mirai. Well, that will not be the case. Mirai, at 7 points, is already out. There is no scenario that she can advance, and she is out of the tournament. So, just give her and Chan Yoda 10 minutes to run into each other as hard as they can with lariats. That's all I'm asking. It's a bummer for Mirai, obviously, but that is the case. Chan Yoda sits at 4 points, mind you, and Mirai sits at 7. So that is what it's all about. But in the Star League, it's about one match. The rematch from First Dream earlier this year. Mai Sakurai, your United National Champion, goes one-on-one with Miku Aono. The winner advances to the final. Plain and simple. Miku Aono does have the edge, though. If this goes to a draw, she will advance to the final as well. This is Miku's chance. Miku Aono, in terms of consistency, has been second to none. She has been really strong in this tournament. The only thing she lacks is a signature match. And I think that's because we are saving that for here. We are saving that for the final night. We are saving that for her to do so on this show. Miku Aono and Mai Sakurai had a fantastic match at First Dream earlier this year. Now they run it back, and now Miku Aono tries to finally beat Mai Sakurai in the big time singles bout. That's what the story is. Despite having the edge, despite having the lead, beating Mai Sakurai is what she must do. The story of the second half of the Dream Star, really since the Dream Stars kicked into that next gear, has been because of Miku Aono. I have no doubt that these two can not only have a fantastic match, but a match worthy of the stakes, worthy of the drama, and one that sees Miku Aono advance to the final. That would leave us with the Dream Star Grand Prix final. Of course, you can watch it on Wrestle Universe this Sunday, 10:30 Eastern time on Saturday night, actually, for those interested. But your final, the final that I have predicted, would be Victoria Yuzuki versus Miku Aono. That freaking rules. You know why? Because to me, that is the MVP of the Dream League versus the MVP of the Star League. It is the two best performers of this tournament to this point, going head to head with everything on the line. It's what it's all about. It's what this tournament's all about. And your winner undoubtedly needs to be Miku Aono. Since the very beginning of this tournament, that has been the pick for me and many others. She has been the pick. She has been the one many believe in because she is ready for that chance. She is ready for that match. She is ready for that moment. She is ready to be the next world champion. I'll have my final review up this Sunday. That'll be the next dose of video content from me. That review will be up on Sunday. We'll complete the Dream Star Grand Prix review series. So make sure you tune into that when we get there. But that's it here from the 5-Star Joshi Show. Over an hour of time and a final time here on the Fight Game Media Network. I just want, again, to thank everyone who has supported me along the way. I want to thank Garrett. I want to thank everyone at the Fight Game Media Network family for believing in me. Garrett believes in me to take this next step. Can I go out on my own full time and we'll see what happens. But it only works with the support of all of you. So thank you to all of you. Continue, YouTube channel is the place to go. YouTube.com/@ScottyWrestling. You can follow me on Twitter @ScottEWrestling. Blue Sky @ScottEWrestling. I have so many different ideas, so many different possibilities, so many different things I want to do still in this space. I'm not going anywhere. The 5-Star Joshi Show is not dead. It's not gone. It's still my show. It's still my brand. It will live on in a new whole way on the feed. But we have so many ideas coming. I'm going to probably make some more posts on the YouTube channel. So go to post, youtube.com/@ScottyWrestling. Just kind of keeping everyone in the update in the realm of what we're doing here. But I will just say this as I wrap this up. 5-Star Joshi Show has meant so much to me. 5-Star Joshi Show in many ways has been me. So this kind of not being the podcast I do that pops up on podcast platforms will be different, but different can be good. And this time I think different's going to be good. Like I said, if you've been listening this long, there will be a podcast feed to hear some of my content from the YouTube channel soon enough. It'll be under Scott E Wrestling. That's all you're going to have to look up under podcast feeds. So just keep an eye out on that. Keep an eye out on my Twitter. Keep an eye out on my YouTube posts. We'll keep you all in the loop. I'm striving to get to those 1,000 subscribers. That's kind of a big threshold there on YouTube that I'll be super proud of. But each and every one of you that already subscribe, thank you so much. And each of every one of you that have listened to me on this feed for the past 4 years, you mean the world to me. It's not goodbye. It's just see you later. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Fight Game Media. Thank you to the many who have listened. And until next time, so long. See you later. Bye-bye.